Hi, in this session we are going to talk about how support networks in school can promote new ways of learning for teachers. So ma'am, any new behavior that anybody tries to learn, they need a lot of support from their network, don't they? We've thought about what is the minimum that is required in order to sustain this sort of a learning in a school. So the first aspect in terms of support, in my opinion, comes from management and sort of school leaders. The second one is from peers, so all the other teachers in the school and perhaps other staff in the school. And lastly, from professionals such as trainers who actually will be best equipped to train teachers in these sorts of techniques.
In that, once you are referring to first two, I think Neha must ask the question, because I, being a principal, cannot ask you कि management क्या करे.
No, how can they support? How can school management support?
Okay. So that question should come from you, no? That how you are asking me that how can.
No, you can ask him.
I'll answer.
How will she'll ask you, no? How can management support?
Yes.
So what kind of support do you think management can provide the teachers for learning these skills?
So Kunal, in a proactive school, I think these things are being done in bits which are scattered. In your opinion, how management can support the staff?
So I think there are a number of ways that management can structure and organize a school, review their philosophy of teaching, of engaging with parents, of engaging with students, demonstrate behavior themselves, so modeling. Just like we expect teachers to model behaviors for students and we expect parents to behave in a certain way, and then students will pick up those behaviors from parents. Adults in organizations learn from their supervisors and seniors, don't they? So I think if there is a school leader who is able to demonstrate remaining calm in the face of stress and looking after their mental health and communicating appropriately, being sensitive and empathetic, that's one really simple way of motivating the other teachers, of setting the tone of what this school or this institution is all about. I think another way that managers can support teachers in being able to become more capable themselves in managing day-to-day issues is by looking into specific training resources, and that would mean not just one-off trainings. Unfortunately, in my experience, schools invest most of their budgets on single trainings which happen once in a while, and these are the kind of trainings that so I mean, I've been on trainings where by the time you leave the training you are delighted, aren't you, because you think, wow, I've learned this new thing and from tomorrow my life is going to be different. And usually that lasts for about a day or two, and within a week you've forgotten everything. So I think we have to acknowledge that any behavior change is challenging, and any change of this magnitude would require some sustainability measures. So freeing up teachers from some of their other duties to be able to attend to themselves, look after their own health, discuss with each other what other ways might be most suitable of managing students. I think these are some of the ways that management can support teachers.
That's great. Nowadays it's mandatory that once a teacher enters into this profession or of the emerging issues in the schools, it is mandatory for every teacher to undergo the psychometric test. So what kind of psychometric test should be there? The boards, be the ICSE, be the CBSE, they have made it mandatory that teachers should go this psychometric test. But what are the parameters, what should be the parameters of this psychometric test, and under what domains we should get the teachers assessed? Because there are so many companies which are doing this psychometric test. We are clueless what should be done. So, as an expert, I would like to have your opinion.
Sure. So are you talking about the CBSE notification from last year?
Yeah.
Yes. So I know that I've looked at that notification and I've spoken to lots of school teams and school leaders and mental health professionals and psychologists and psychiatrists. And to be absolutely honest, it seems like that notification did not come with a lot of detail. So the full notification was actually about a number of measures that would promote.
No, as far as the measures or the parameters or domains are concerned, it did not provide us a single. So it was only the terminology we got to know that the psychometric test. So as a teacher, like what all things should be assessed?
Should be assessed in teachers. So I think what I'll do is I'll try and answer that question more generically and not in regard to a specific notification. I think generally teachers can be assessed on parameters such as their subjective well-being. So this is a very easy thing to do, and it's very easy to identify people who are under a bit of stress. It's very easy to give them some tips and techniques and point them in the right direction. I think personality is something that could give people some insight about the kind of attributes that they might have. Some of it is more based on behavior, and so sort of asking them examples about how they would behave in certain situations. The kind of things that happen in school are not rare, aren't they? They're common things, they happen commonly, they happen all the time. So what might be not unreasonable is to observe teachers like this in actually conducting a classroom with some of these situations. So if there's a student who's behaving in a certain way.
If a new teacher is, joining the profession, new teacher is joining my organization. So the law says that the psychometric test has to be done. Honestly confessing, we got some companies that getting that psychometric test, but we are actually clueless based on MI. So they are giving some lines, so which I am not satisfied. Yes. So you just throw some more light that what should be.
I think some of these things that I mentioned, I can guess they would be useful. I know that there are schools who are arbitrarily testing various things, and some of them are testing intellect, some of them are testing IQ, some of them are testing aptitude. But I really don't see much relevance of somebody who's trained as a teacher and worked as a teacher and is applying for a job as a teacher to test their intellect and aptitude. I really can't see much value in that.
Psychometric test, I believe.
So psychometric testing is mostly about traits that are relatively hardwired. So things like your intellect, your personality, your aptitude. So these are the three personality attributes that are relatively fixed. And things like your mood and how you're feeling today, these are more changeable. So I think again, instead of just having a list of tests and subjecting unsuspecting teachers to it, each school must reflect on what exactly is their area of need, what are the kind of difficulties that they're facing when they're appointing teachers, what are the kind of skills that they're looking for, but their interview process is missing out. And that would give you much more richer information.
The psychometric test should also be that based on the needs analysis?
Absolutely. I think every school is so different that recruitment procedures.
I mean, every teacher is different. So for every teacher there should be a needs analysis and then there should be a psychometric test.
For every school there should be a needs analysis so that they can be best informed about what exactly they're trying to test. So there are literally hundreds of psychological tests, and psychologists don't like using each other's tests. So every new psychologist that comes about, if they want to make a mark in their field, they have to make a test.
Okay. Great.
So would you like to ask me about teachers and how they can support?
Yeah. How can teachers be supported with these techniques?
So I think the second group that can greatly make a difference to a school culture is how teachers interact with each other, what their relationship is like, how much they trust each other, how much they confide in each other, how much they share difficulties with each other. And again, this is something that some schools might intuitively do more of, might do a better job in, and some schools might unwittingly, so they didn't set themselves up to be isolative, but because of the way it was made or the way the school is structured, there is more distance, there is more gap, there is more closeness. People are more aloof with each other, they are more formal, they don't really see each other as sort of confiding partners. So I think different schools are going to find this very different. One of the things is that for a school to take this journey as a collective audience, we're really mostly talking about teachers, because the biggest group of staff who are doing anything hands-on is teachers. So in some ways, when we talk about schools, we're first talking about teachers, then we're talking about students and parents and other groups. So teachers can support each other by at least finding some way to improve that relationship between each other. This might be by something that we're going to discuss in the next session, which is about supervision and mentoring. It might be about creating some semi-formal structures, such as having a weekly session where they reflect on what sort of techniques they've been using to make their own instruction more mindful and learn from each other. It might be more informal structures where, if somebody is not feeling well or if they have personal problems, you might set them up to speak to somebody within the school. So I think those are some ways that teachers can support each other.
Now in today's time, I think parents, they have a big stake in the school system. It wasn't so earlier. And the student behavior is the reflection of the family or the reflection of the parent attitude. How we can, bring to those kinds of training or the system or the counseling or the remedial action for the parents, how we can do
Yes.
that?
Sure. So I know that we have a full session on parents a little later,
okay.
but I'll just briefly answer your questions. So you're absolutely right. Schools are sort of semi-owned by parents these days, aren't they? Whether you like it or not. So parents have
That's
a
the reality.
huge stake and they have a huge voice. And I think sometimes schools find them intimidating and aggressive because sometimes parents are not necessarily made to feel like they're part of school. They feel a bit excluded, and they feel a bit alienated. They might imagine that the school is sort of a bit persecutory, because for parents, schools come across as like big buildings with lots of people and one really senior person on top, and if I've done something really bad or my child has done something really bad, I have to go and meet the person at the head of it. So they come from that mindset, and when they come with that mindset and they see that they had an expectation and that's not been met, they don't really know how to express it. I would strongly urge schools to think of themselves as the bigger, stronger party in the school-parent relationship and take initiatives like teaching parents as much as teaching students. So parents need to be taught parenting. They need to be taught that if your child is stressed or is not sleeping or is very upset or has interpersonal or behavioral challenges, then how are we going to together, collectively, collaboratively?
I agree. I mean, instead of spending your energy in doing the teaching as well as parenting, it's better to train the parents in different workshops or in a systematic manner.
So I think giving them some skills where it is clear that they require more skills and setting up some structures and systems so that they don't feel as if I don't know who to talk to in a school, for example, which I imagine some parents sometimes experience.
No, it is really needed because the way you have said that some parents feel that they are not heard. On the other hand, the teachers feel that they are bullied by the parents.
Absolutely.
So
Yes.
we need to work, we cannot leave that segment of the parents. as the biggest stakeholders, we cannot leave that segment. We need to work on them as well.
Yes. I mean, I think there's something going amiss, isn't it? Where so there's something going amiss, isn't it? Where if you speak to any parent, all they want is their child to be happy and healthy.
Absolutely.
If you speak to any principal, all they want is all the children to be happy and successful. So despite having identical agendas, there is somewhat unnecessary conflict. And I think some of that can be prevented if there is more proactive, positive relationship building. If there is a feeling that parents get that my school has spent some time in thinking about my child's future with me, and I know that they are doing everything that they can, because genuinely they are doing everything they can, aren't they? There are no big things that they
Soumya,
not
you
doing.
shared that there should be some space, there should be some time given to settle down those emotions. Now, be the teachers or the parents, how much time should be given, for settling down before the intervention is done?
So in the classroom or like
I'm referring to the student-teacher conflict. Conflict is surely a strong word. You can say the difference of opinion and the difference of opinion between the parents as well as the teacher.
so it depends upon the one, if we talk in context of students, depend upon the age of the child, because for example if we are talking about middle school or high school, so that's again a transition period and adolescent age, so lot many hormonal changes are happening and psychological changes are happening, so we have to consider that factor also in the mind when we are dealing with the adolescent, because in that age identity formation is happening, and adolescent from their perspective they feel that whatever they are thinking is right, and the teacher on the other hand is trying to explain the other perspective, so that's why there is a difference in the opinion. So we can set boundaries also, same time we can be polite and firm. So teacher can say, okay, once you are relaxed and calm and I'm also, then we will continue the discussion. So maybe teacher can also reflect when you are so once you are relaxed, then we can continue with the discussion. So it might be some, depending on the person to person, so it might be one day also, and we can come up with the solutions and all those things. And then if we find that student is not able to calm down, so then it's again the responsibility of adult or a teacher to help the student, enable the student to feel calm, and help them with some strategies where they can settle down their emotions. Instead of giving them teaching, you have done something wrong, then again we are not understanding or acknowledging their feelings. So once we acknowledge their feeling that okay, you are feeling upset, or okay, you are feeling that justice is not being done with you, so student is feeling okay, my teacher understand my feeling, so they get that space, okay, now I am in the position to discuss more about that solution.
With reference to the parents, like my question is the same, that how much should be that settling time, as I have faced some incidences where the parent was very aggressive, or the parent was annoyed, and for that particular time we just let the things go for a day or so, so that we can do the intervention the next day from the school side, the teacher or the coordinator. Rather that time which we thought that we should give the parent, that has rather aggravated the issue.
So, we have to understand what we actually mean by the space. So, we need to actually invest in that relationship also before, So, what in my experience we have observed, school or parents, we always work in the, fixing a problem with that attitude. So, okay, if this problem is fixed, then it's over. So if we are doing working in the approach, okay, we are putting more efforts in the relationship when we talk from a emotional intelligence schooling and all. So again, bringing in empathy and relationship skills finding more better solution, problem solving skills and all. So that play a major role in that way. So it's very important like to see what is my agenda, what I want to achieve from that thing. Is it like a school wants to convince the parents, or no, I am saying right? That's the mindset or the philosophy we need to address and bring.
Absolutely. Most of the time, so it's a process. You say that investing in the relationship and doing, instead of getting into that disaster management kind of thing, or handling the things once they.
So I'd just like to say a few words on this issue of parental aggression. So I don't want anybody to take what we're meaning as the fact that schools should put up with inappropriate behavior, or parents can get away by doing anything, whether it is raising their voice or threatening violence or anything. I wonder if there are some lessons to be learned from the healthcare industry. So I don't know if you know about this, but healthcare, especially emergency departments, psychiatry departments, seem to have quite a lot of aggression and violence, and to the point where lots of doctors and nurses end up facing violence. And one of the things that hospitals have started to do is to have very obvious posters being displayed in waiting rooms saying that this is a no tolerance hospital, implying that look, whatever is wrong with you, we'll look after, but aggression is not something that we'll put up with. And then that has to be implemented as well. So it might mean that you report somebody to the police once a year, but you wouldn't do that every day. But I do think that if aggression is a problem, then a communication to parents that this is not appropriate, with some reminders that can be placed, and actually not putting up with it, should be a sort of middle ground.
So Kunal, you have shared that how management should deal, or the top leader, the school leader should deal, then the teachers. What about the professional help? What kind of professional help or support is required?
So I believe that there are a couple of ways that professionals can contribute to making schools more mindful. The first way that they can have some role to play is by helping schools by carrying out objective assessments and evaluations. It may be that schools have some idea about where they stand, but doing some objective assessment will give everybody an opportunity to compare what things were really like when the program is complete, whether it is 3 months or 6 months or 12 months down the line. The second way that professionals can be engaged is to deliver trainings and programs that actually work for that school. So some schools might be more able to draw from online learning resources. Some schools might not like online learning. Some might like learning in their own language. And so I think there is a degree of customization that can be carried out. And in terms of delivering trainings and developmental sessions, that's something professionals can help with.
So you mean, as we were referring that the needs analysis is to be done, so the needs analysis should also be by the professional, because as a school leader, as a management, we are not qualified to understand that need.
I agree. I think in the ideal world, what you would get is a school leader who finds a professional that he or she can trust and believe, and then they would open up and talk about their difficulties, and the professional would use all their experience to devise the most easy solution that the school can implement. So I think that's quite doable. Great. So that's conclusion of session on support networks, and the next session is on supervision and mentoring.